Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and now it's time on the debate for the nation's sharpest opinion. When it came to the Right to Information Act, political parties, no matter who they were very prickly about coming under the ambit of the RTA. And I continue to believe that all political funding should be transparent and in the open. So today, when the Honorable Supreme Court has held that anonymous electoral bonds are unconstitutional, I believe there is merit to what the Supreme Court has decided. The Electoral Bond scheme, ladies and gentlemen, was brought in to tackle the wealth of black money infusion into political funding. So much cash, so much black money going to political parties. And this was brought in to clean up the dirty cash-driven donations to political parties. It is a reality that has to be countered. But are electoral bonds which permit anonymity to donors a solution? I don't think so. First of all, we need to know. Where's the money coming from? Who's giving it? How much to whom? Why should we not know? Secondly, these bonds are routed through the State Bank of India, which of course has the data of the donors. The government will get access to that data. So the question really is, if the ruling party benefits disproportionately by way of access to who the donors are, why should the public be denied that same information? I should know. How much the BJP is getting, how much AAP is getting, how much Samajwadi Party or Congress are getting, or anyone else is getting. Who's giving? Secondly, the overall shield that political donors get is not democratic and in the interests of transparency. Everybody must know. If you're watching the Republic Media Network, for example, you have a right to know, and you can know, what is the ownership structure of Republic. I have to inform the government, and if you ask, you will get to know. That should be the fact. If I'm claiming this independently owned, this can be backed up and you can get access to it. Ladies and gentlemen, if we in the media have to share all the information with the people, which we should, then political parties also should. Everyone should. Corporates should. Everyone should. Because in the India of today, it's about transparency. We have the right to know. As the people of India, we have a right to know who is pouring in small, medium or big money to political parties. Political parties have a right to know. We also have a right to know. It can't be unequal access to information. After that, we can then choose to reject or elect. And we need to know, I'll tell you why, viewers. Because, for example, and let me give one example. All of you know that various firms, for example, firms which have been dealing with certain kind of payments, or firms which are dealing with issues which are subject to government legislation, if they are the major donors to parties and donors to certain political parties, does that give them a right to influence opinion? These are general questions, relevant questions. Opacity is not a solution to cleaning the political economy of party funding, in my view. Transparency is what we want. Opacity should not be an option at all. Because behind closed doors, by way of overt or covert access to the SBI database, it could systematically allow for the loophole of possible blind quid pro quos, favoritism, or the inverse. Now, one can say there's nothing to prove that it happened, but the fact is, if it can happen, then why take the risk? So while electoral bonds, they have tackled one menace, which is cash and black money and cash and carry, black money in politics, it has mistakenly endorsed, in my view, another: opacity, lack of transparency. So I don't think it should be a debate at all, because faceless black money cash is not better or worse than faceless accounted for bonds with KYC. And while I will ask on whether the scheme favors whoever is ruling at the center, it is rich for those like the Congress who are very happy with the black money funding all this while to be claiming they wanted this because the share of income of national parties from unknown sources has the TMC at 96%, Congress at 72% in terms of bonds and donations in cash below a certain amount. So I think the way forward is to encourage transparency, with the Supreme Court leading the way in its decision. Let's debate.
A 5-judge Supreme Court bench unanimously brings an end to electoral bonds.
While the electoral bonds comprehensively address the role of black money in politics and brought funding of political parties above board, the court seemed to have been guided by issues of transparency and quid pro quo. But the question is, in giving more weight to these issues, has the court poured cold water on ridding politics of illicit money?
The Supreme Court stated that the poll bonds infringe on freedom of speech.
Not only the electoral bond scheme, but also the amendment which removed the restrictions on political contributions by companies, which were that you cannot contribute more than 7.5% of your annual profit by way of political contributions. That has also been struck down. Petitions filed by us have been comprehensively allowed by the Supreme Court.
Electoral bonds were specifically bought in by the government to bring transparency in poll funding.
ये निर्णय एक बहुत ही प्रामाणिक उद्देश्य के लिए लाया गया था. This decision was undertaken for a very laudable objective, to bring in transparency in electoral funding.
The step was taken by the government following a larger pattern post-demonetization.
This is the most historic judgment that we have got from the Supreme Court in the last 5-7 years, and every issue that we had raised has been tackled in this judgment from whatever we heard in the judgment.
The SC in its judgment stated that the system violates right to information.
इसके माध्यम से हर वर्ग को, हर पूंजीपति को दबाया जाकर के, कुचला जाकर के अप्रत्यक्ष रूप से उनसे इलेक्ट्रॉनिक बॉन्ड के माध्यम से चंदे लिए जा रहे हैं और अपनी पार्टी का जो है फंड भरा जा रहा है. मैं समझता हूं कि इस फैसले का भी हम लोग बहुत बहुत स्वागत करते हैं.
The apex court asked banks to stop issuing the bonds. While the electoral bonds addressed the role of black money in politics, the issues of transparency and quid pro quo seem to have weighed heavily on the mind of the Supreme Court. The question is, in giving more weight to right to know, has the court poured cold water on the idea of cleaning up politics? Let's debate.
We have Kapil Madan, Nitin Tyagi of the AAP, Ishkaran Singh Bhandari and Abhinav Mukherjee of the Supreme Court. The BJP is not on this debate tonight. I would like to start by bringing in Nitin Tyagi. Nitin Tyagi, briefly, it's been made out that the BJP is going to lose out because of the Supreme Court decision. How is that?
See, first of all, I would say a big welcome for this bold decision by the Supreme Court. And if you remember, Urjit Patel, who was the RBI governor at the time when this scheme was launched of this electoral bonds, and Urjit Patel per se was supposedly handpicked by Modi ji himself as the RBI governor, and he himself had said that this electoral bonds scheme is going to increase money laundering. And somehow I've seen even in the past when High Court had observed that total funding of BJP, Bangaru's party, is in violation of FCRA, they went ahead and changed the FCRA in the parliament. And this is how they have been functioning. And why they have been trying to hide the identity of the donors is, it just raises the questions. You know what arguments were put forth by the government in the Supreme Court? They said the public has no right to know the identity of the donors. This is ridiculous. This is shocking. In this democracy, public do not have the right to know the identity of the donors. Public has every right to know whether the party or the individual whom they had voted for and brought into power is taking decisions for the public, or is it taking decisions for the donors, the people who have funded his election or the party's election. Public should know clearly.
So the point is,
and they're trying to,
I'll take a quick counter to that. I got your point. I do agree with you, Nitin, on this one.
Any of the debates
I agree with you. I'd like to hear from Abhinav. No. I agree with you on this point very, very strongly. I want to bring in Abhinav Mukherjee, please, on the debate. Abhinav, today we are told always it's about transparency in everything. You know, KYC, UPI transactions, tax, income, everything has to be above board. Simple terms, you, everyone, our income, our credit card expenses, if I buy a 10 rupee bottle of mineral water also, it has to be tracked down, right? That's the way we are told. This is the new India. In that new India, the hundreds of crores of rupees, thousands of crores of rupees going to political parties through their donors, why should they be anonymous? And these bonds also enjoy 100% tax exemption on the donations. So it's a double whammy, you know, like it's like saying, to a news organization, anyone funding a news organization will get 100% tax donations. Also, nobody will know who it is. Would you accept that? Would a political party accept that? No. But they want the rule for themselves. Why? Or wanted rather.
Arnab, see, first of all, this is a very important judgment which the court has given in terms of not only the electoral process, which it has thoroughly examined in great depth and detail and given many, many nuances on how it functions. Secondly, the judgment also talks about the effort of the government to curb black money. Now, we have to understand from the constitutional perspective and the legal perspective, the court has faulted it on a fundamental premise. It recognized that the electoral bonds are perhaps the most important and best way forward to curb black money. That's what the judgment says. But the judgment also says that because you restricted the right of the public to know, like you said, who these people are who are giving this kind of money to a political party, therefore, this method may not be the most correct method, and perhaps electoral trusts, etc., which are ancillary methods, may be more correct. Now, the rationale given for this was that, look, one is the black money aspect, which is a very important aspect economically. Second, obviously, is the urge to digitize and to get all this kind of money into the formal banking channels. That was the vision of the government when it introduced this kind of a scheme. And the other aspect which was lost sight of was the retributive aspect. Now, today, you are looking at a perspective that a very strong party at the center or in the state will get all the funding. But you have to also look at the reverse. If there is a person who wants to give it to another party, which is the opposition, how will that person give it to the opposition party? The aspect of coercion works both ways. You say, okay, the strong party will coerce you into giving the money to itself. But you have to also see that the strong party will the weak party will not get the money.
Let's say, I take that. But Abhinav, let's say, and I get Abhishek Sudhir on this, Abhinav, assume that funders, corporate houses hedge their bets, give a little to BJP, little to Congress, little to Aam Aadmi Party, etc. The State Bank of India is answerable to the government. The data is with the government. What if the government knows, you funded this party. We don't like this party, but you are funding them. Will it not? No, will it not? Even if the government is not retributive, or if the government is not, vengeful. Let's assume government is not vengeful, but the corporate houses may fear that if we give, for example, 1,000 crore rupees to Aam Aadmi Party or 2,000 crore rupees to Congress, government will come after us. So that should that also not be taken care of? Abhishek wants to counter you here. Abhishek, what he's saying? Yeah, brief.
That is the point I was making. That, like you said, suppose the Aam Aadmi Party or Party XYZ feels that if the corporate house feels that if I give the money to them, they will come after us. The electoral bond ensures the identity of the donor is not disclosed. So today, the government will not get to know.
No, but it is available to the State Bank of India. But the identity is available not to the BJP, but to the State Bank of India.
The other parties will not know, the public will not know, the government can know. Because the government will know. Answerable to the government.
See, the State Bank of India discloses this information only if there is a court
Election Commission doesn't know. The government knows.
That is how the scheme functions.
You should be very clear in that point. The government has access to every single data of SBI. So if I am funding a particular party or you are funding a particular party, let's say you fund the ruling party and I do not fund the ruling party, the government will know I funded the party which was standing against the ruling
In fact,
party, and they can come after us.
I would take it
But
otherwise.
let's say
I
there's
am
a
on
tainted corporate
I'm on a
house,
point-
which,
I'm
I
on a-
mean, let's not name any corporate house, but they have been funding a particular party and it has come into power, and that party takes decisions in that company's favor, in that corporate's favor, instead of taking decisions in the favor of the public. At least public would know that why is this particular government taking decisions in favor of
So-
a particular corporate house.
See,
Okay,
This is what
he's
argument
raising the angle.
I must say
he's
one
raising-
thing. The argument which is being
let me get the other panelists in, Abhinav, for a moment. For a
Yes.
moment, let me just get the other three panelists in. The point we need to look at tonight is simply one of conflict of interest, where parties are not required to declare the details of the donor, right? Donor's identity is completely guarded under the provision of electoral bond schemes if the donation is less than 2,000 rupees. This was the biggest bone of contention for the petitioners. Now, it is revealed in the recent budget session that the total value of electoral bonds purchased under the State Bank of India is 16,518 crores. Right, with the SBI's commission being a certain amount. So that's a lot of money. So it's not something we need to know who's giving the money.
On paper, the Election Commission of India states for a Lok Sabha campaign, you can spend 50 to 70 lakh rupees. In an assembly election, it's about 20 to 28 lakh rupees. In reality, we know a lot more money is spent. Why was the electoral bonds brought in? It was the brainchild of the former Union Minister Arun Jaitley, the late Mr. Arun Jaitley. He said that corporate houses are hesitant to donate to political parties because they may fear reprisals. That is why we keep anonymity. But, right, when you keep the donors anonymous, like you said, right, there are two conflicting rights. One is known as the right to informational privacy, the right of the privacy of the business houses that donate, versus the right to information of the citizens. Now, if you're donating money, you are getting a seat at the table with the ruling party. Right?
That's your assumption.
That is an assumption. But, you know, there must not only be
No, so TMC
any bias.
received 325 crores
Right.
as bonds. Did they give a seat on the table? DMK received
they might have.
DMK received 185 crores. BR received 529 crores. It's all because of a seat on the table.
It's simple.
So you're saying there's
They-
nothing called ideology, support, nothing. It's all because if a political party is given money by someone, you get a seat on the table.
Not necessarily. We don't. That cannot be assumed. But there is an appearance of bias, right? So make it.
So why did the Congress get 1,123.32 crore rupees under electoral bonds since the bonds were introduced?
The Congress party should disclose, right, who gave the, I mean, it will be disclosed on the website of the Election Commission of India on March 13th. Every political party, right, opposition, ruling party should say, okay, this was the money given to us. Did we act on it?
My point is different. There is a right to information act. Okay. And right to information act, the Supreme Court has rightly said, Ishkaran, that the electoral bonds are violating the right to information which is guaranteed to me, not under RTI, but under section 19(1) of the Constitution. It is my fundamental right to know. And you have violated 19(1). Why? Why are political parties being secretive? I don't know what's the big deal is.
Arnab, frankly, you know my views. They've always been in view of the citizen knowing the maximum that he can know. But there are certain competing interests here. It reminds me of Winston Churchill. Democracy is not the best form of government except for every other form that has been tried. What was the situation before the electoral bonds? There were cash going to political parties because cash is expenses of political parties is a reality. Corporates donating is a reality. So cash was going there. The citizens still did not get to know. So how do we find the best system in which a corporate which is donating is not harassed? Because we have unfounded rumors on social media. Also, you know the reality, how a corporate's interests can be donated, even if it's acting fairly. And how does a citizen get a right to know? It's a very difficult thing to balance. The Supreme Court has unanimously said that you cannot stop the citizen from knowing what is being donated. Now, a new method will have to be found in which this balance has to be struck. Because let's be clear on one thing, 16,000 crores is an enormous sum of money.
New method?
But in the totality of the expenditure in election,
Let Kapil
2019 election, as per some reports, was 60,000 crores. At the assembly elections, you are almost spending 1,25,000 to 1,50,000 crores in a 5-year electoral cycle. So it's 10% of that. Where is the rest money coming? We have to go towards more transparency. We have to go towards more white money coming in. Those are very large questions which we have to, of course, go into. But only one angle of the question is not the entire sum of the question.
Let's say couple.
Now, Arnab, I will
Couples
just
country,
make
couple.
quick points. Yes, I will make quick points on why the Supreme Court came to this conclusion. The first thing Supreme Court noted is that this government has made amendments to Section 182 of the Companies Act. Previously, there was a cap, there was a maximum amount that the company could have donated. By way of this amendment, when they introduced this electoral bond scheme, they removed that cap, meaning thereby a company, a corporate house can donate whatever they want. That's point number one. The other amendment, which the government brought was in the Income Tax Act, in the Representation of the People Act, Section 29. Both these provisions mandated that the political parties which is receiving the donation will prepare proper accounts. Now, interestingly, these amendments provided the political parties that if they are receiving money by electoral bond, there is no requirement for them to prepare and maintain accounts. Now, tell me something, on what basis, when I was, hearing Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, he mentions that it is an accounted money and it is a, measure taken against black money. I'll give you another example. Now, this bond, how does this bond works? Now, I can go to the Reserve
But isn't it right? I mean, if you, aren't political parties going to find a way to get the money? If you can't get electoral bonds, you'll get cash.
Yes. So, Arnab, then that's the reason why you have EDs, no? That's the reason why you have prosecuting agencies, you have income tax, you have, and the fact is that you have politicized these agencies so much that, they will work only in one direction. That was precisely the reason why there was a cap in place in the Companies Act, which prohibited a company to donate, beyond a particular point. Now, what Supreme Court has said is that when there is no limit, there is always an apprehension that the company which is donating the amount, there could be a possibility of quid pro quo. And, it affects, the right of an individual who has to exercise his right to vote basis the information that he has. And because the government has prevented that information to go to the public, it has impinges an individual to, cast his, right in the manner which he would, want, basis the information that was concealed from him.
Abhinav wanted to counter, then I come back to you. Abhinav.
Yes. So I want to just bring out one aspect. Everybody says, the SBI is like a doormat for the government. Every institution today is a doormat for the government. But let's see the judgment of the court, where it has recorded, it's recorded in the judgment of the Supreme Court. There was a healthy debate and discussion between the RBI and the Election Commission.
Mr.
They raised their objections.
Mr. Abhinav, I will just stop you here. If you have read the judgment,
it doesn't work like this always.
RBI objected
a doormat for the government. So it is very wrong to project that the state bank or any other authority which is a public authority is just a walkover or a pushover. These are institutions which are manned by independent thought people. They have given views to the government. Government has considered it, come out with a certain kind of a policy. Today, now the aspect is...
My point is this, that you already have a mechanism. You already have a mechanism, if I can...
Sorry.
Yeah. There's already a mechanism called electoral trust, right? Under the UPA government, you had a scheme of electoral trust, which is very much in existence. The biggest electoral trust in India is called the Prudent Electoral Trust. It was set up by the Bharati Group. That information is in the public domain.
Fair to the parties. Let's look at it the other way. Tell me one thing, Abhishek. If you are a corporate and you have given money to Congress or BJP, assuming that it will be anonymous, is it not unfair to now put you to public scrutiny? You're changing the rules midstream.
That is a very good point. And in fact, the donors can approach the Supreme Court and state that they had a legitimate expectation that their identity would not be revealed when they made the donation. So actually, there are informational privacy concerns of the business houses, and this is a strategy that could be adopted by the business houses to say that if the ECI reveals their names, they were under a legitimate expectation that their identities would not be revealed.
So my point here is Nitin, all political parties are united and all of them in the past have resisted transparency in putting information on funding. Today you can say this is anti-BJP, but Congress has been against it. Congress has said that guidelines are unfair, not justifiable. Congress and BJP are both against a verdict that accused them of violating foreign funding norms. BSP has avoided recording of its fundings. Mayawati does not tell people how much she is getting from which supporters. CPM is against recording each and every donation that it has received. So, you know, it's not like any one party is holier than the others on this.
And just one more aspect I wanted to bring to everybody's notice. See, there was an issue which came before the court that a willful defaulter's name has to be published. The RBI said, don't do it.
Secondly,
it impacts
all this that I've heard
impacts
trying to defend
Supreme
corporates
Court
or the
rejected that submission and in 2019
parties
passed a
who have
detailed
been
judgment
taking a lot of
saying that
fund
every
through
willful
electoral
defaulter's
bonds,
name should be
and
published because it's
I think
taxpayers'
the
money.
whole legitimacy of this total transaction is under scanner right
perhaps
now.
the judgment needs to be reconsidered.
I think even the corporates should understand that this is a democratic country where the people have the right to know. Why do they want to actually hide their identity? Because any party which is in power will always know who has donated to which party. So it was not a game changer at all. It was, in fact, it destroyed the level playing field totally and completely. So now every single corporate or an individual
can you prove, for example, you're running a political party, you're accused of Liquorgate, and Liquorgate has funded the Goa campaign, you're fighting that case, and we'll see which way that it goes. So you're not, you're not exactly set a very good example there. But can you give me any example where can you say that anybody who's funded you has got into trouble?
Name a company, corporate, or individual who has funded up, who has got into trouble. Actually shows how the party in power can actually misuse these institutions. It is a perfect example. Good that you reminded me of
exactly, you're admitting it. As an AAP spokesperson, you're admitting that Liquorgate proves how a political party can abuse its position.
You have mentioned it
to make money the wrong way.
Exactly how ED was used to actually frame a political party by the party in power, by the party that is Bangaru's
party. Now, what's a better way to fund Liquorgate or electoral bonds? Ishkaran, since we are bringing it, what is a better way to fund a party? Liquorgate or electoral bonds?
Misuse of power by center.
By this, what was the
electoral bonds by misuse of center of the enforcement directorate. Similarly, they have the clout to find who funded whom from SBI. Totally and completely. I mean, nobody can stop Bharatiya Janata Party. Nobody can stop Bangaru's party from finding out from SBI who.
No, but I'm enjoying this. I think I'll tell you one thing. Nitin, to everyone I'll say one thing. As a citizen, I'm enjoying it. I love being transparent. I love being transparent about everything, especially our finances, our company finances, and my personal finances. I love it. I'm telling you, people are loving it that political parties are being forced to be transparent about everything. We're going to have a great time finding out who's funded whom, to what extent and when. Ladies and gentlemen, 30-second Secured commercial break. After that, the quiz over who's going to be the Prime Minister of Pakistan.